Okay, welcome back to Piano in 6 easy 3-minute lessons. In the first lesson, we demystified the keyboard. You learned how to point any note, know exactly what it was in relationship to the 2 black keys or the 3 black keys. In the second lesson, we introduced you to these black keys and know that they're sharps and flats, and we talked about the distance between the keys, each key being a half step. Well, as you know, all songs aren't just made up of somebody poking one key at a time, right? They're made up of something called chords, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's lesson. So let's begin. All right, well, how do you make a chord? What makes a chord? How can you, as somebody who doesn't read music and hasn't played piano before, immediately come to the keyboard and know how to make a chord? I'm going to show you. So let's go back to our easy position of the C, for example, and let's make a C major chord, right? This is a C major chord, okay? This is the first note in the C major chord, which is called the root position. This is the second note in the chord, and this is the last note in the chord, right? Now, what I want you to notice, I want you to look down and pay attention to the following thing that makes up this chord, because it's going to apply to any other major chord. We talked about the distance, right? 1, 2, 3. There's 3 half steps between the first note and the second note. Over here, there's 2 half notes between the second note and the third note. So you've got 3 and you've got 2. 3 half notes and 2 half notes, and that makes our major chord. Now guess what? Now you know how to make any major chord starting with any root note. How is that? Take that same 3-2 formula and let's move it up to this D. 1, 2, 3 half notes, so the next note has to be this F sharp. Then 1, 2 half notes, so the next note has to be this A. And there you go. Those are the notes in a D major. Same thing with an E. Same thing with an F. Notice that there's 3 half steps here, 2 half steps here. It's going to be the same all the way up the keyboard. That's all you need to know to make any major chord once you have the root position. Now, obviously, not all chords are major. They're not all happy, happy, happy. Some notes are a little melancholy. Well, how do you make a melancholy chord? That's called a minor chord. So how do you make a major chord a minor? You just reverse that 3-2. So instead of 3 half steps between the first and second note, you make it 2 half steps. And then the 3 half steps go between the second and the third. So C major goes to C minor. D major goes to D minor, E major goes to E minor. So all we've done is reverse it from 3-2 to 2-3 as far as the half step distance between the notes. Now also, every chord is not always going to be just a straight up major or a straight up minor. You may see sharp chords. Well, how do you make a sharp chord? Easy. You just take every note in the chord, in the major chord, and you raise it by a half step. So in the C chord, the first note would raise a half step, the second note would raise a half step, and the third note would raise a half step. So there's your C sharp. Easy breezy, right? But what if it's asking you for a C sharp minor? Well, if you remember when we made a C major or a C minor, we just flipped the script from 3-2 to 2-3. It's the same thing with a C sharp minor. We have 3 half steps again between the first and second note. Now we just switch it. So we have 2 and then 3. So that's a C sharp. Excuse me. That's a C sharp. That's a C sharp minor. So what I want you to do for this assignment is I want you to go through, take every root note from C all the way to B. And I want you to form the major chord based on what we've just talked about today, the minor chord based on what we've just talked about today. I want you to make every one of those notes a sharp chord. Then I want you to make them a sharp minor chord based on what we talked about today. And do it up the keyboard and down the keyboard until you're completely comfortable making major chords. And if you want to, heck, now that's a good time. You can pick out a song that you like, that you know the chords, and, actually start playing something. But that's your assignment. I'll see you on the next lesson.